Welcome to this explainer from Notebook Summaries. Today, we're looking at the Sikh Empire. Think about it. A kingdom that rose from the ashes of another, dominated a region for 50 years, and then it was just gone. So how did that happen? Let's get into it.
For half a century, this powerful, homegrown empire stood as a formidable barrier, the one thing stopping total British control of India. It was forged in conflict, sure, but it was built on a principle that might really surprise you. It's a story of an incredible rise and a tragically rapid fall.
All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with how this whole thing began, get to know the legendary Lion of Punjab, see just how surprisingly diverse his kingdom was, and then, we'll look at the cracks that brought it all down in a final, dramatic showdown.
So where did this empire even come from? Well, it definitely didn't just appear out of nowhere. Its roots are actually found in the chaos left behind when the massive Mughal Empire started to fall apart.
This timeline really paints a picture of a full century of change. You got the Mughal Empire weakening, which creates this huge power vacuum right in the Punjab. The first Sikh uprisings, they get crushed. But the resistance, that never dies. Instead, it gets smarter, more organized. It evolves into these confederacies called missals. You can kind of think of them as these independent Sikh clans, each controlling its own patch of land, but united by a collective army called the Dal Khalsa, which really laid the foundation for what came next.
Now, the Mongols were fantastic at fighting off outsiders, but they also had a bad habit of fighting each other. And it's right out of this chaos that one absolutely brilliant leader steps up to pull them all together.
The year 1799 is where everything changes. A young leader named Ranjit Singh, get this, he was only 19 years old, captures Lahore, the historic capital of Punjab. This was a huge deal. It wasn't just another skirmish. This was a signal to everyone that the era of warring clans was over and a new, centralized kingdom was on the rise.
Just 2 years later, he makes it official. During the festival of Vaisakhi, he's crowned Maharaja, the king of this new unified state. He'd gone from being just a clan leader to the sovereign of an entire empire.
And he really earned that title, Lion of Punjab. He spent the next few decades just pushing the empire's borders out in every direction. He captured major territories. We're talking Multan, Kashmir, and Peshawar. So what was the secret? A big part of it was his foresight. He modernized the Sikh Khalsa army, even hiring European officers to bring in the latest military tactics and artillery. A total game changer.
Okay, so we've established he built this powerful modern empire. But let's stop and think. What was it actually like for the people living there? You hear Sikh Empire and you might think you know, but the reality? It's going to surprise you.
Just take a look at these numbers. Even though it was called the Sikh Empire, the Sikhs themselves were actually a minority. The vast majority of the people living there, something like 80%, were Muslim. And there was a big Hindu population too. And you better believe that reality completely shaped how Ranjit Singh decided to rule.
And this idea of inclusiveness went all the way to the top. His government, known as the Lahore Darbar, was basically a pure meritocracy. I mean, look at this list. His foreign minister? A Muslim. His prime minister? A Hindu Dogra. He had generals and governors who were Hindu, Muslim, and he even had European Christians in high positions. It was simple for him. What mattered was talent and loyalty, not what religion you practiced.
This all brings us to a really important term, Sarkari Khalsa. It literally means the government of the Khalsa, and it perfectly captures how the empire balanced its identity. It was founded on Sikh ideals for sure, but in practice, it was run as a pragmatic, secular state. And that policy, right there, was the secret sauce. It's how he managed such a diverse population and what made the empire so stable.
But, and this is a big but, that whole golden era of stability and power, it was dangerously dependent on just one man. And when the Lion of Punjab was no longer there, the kingdom he had so carefully built started to fall apart from the inside.
The difference is just night and day. After Ranjit Singh died in 1839, the empire basically spiraled into a decade of complete chaos. His successors were weak, they were assassinated or kicked out one after another. The court fractured into these warring factions. You had generals and ministers literally turning on each other in a bloody fight for power. And all that chaos, it created the perfect opening for a neighbor that had been watching and waiting, the British East India Company.
And that internal weakness, that infighting, led straight to a showdown with their powerful and very ambitious neighbor. The result was two incredibly bloody wars that would ultimately decide the fate of the entire Punjab region.
But here's the thing, even weakened and divided, the Sikh Khalsa army was an absolutely fearsome opponent. This quote here from a British general after a major battle, it says everything you need to know. The Sikhs handed out devastating casualties and pushed the British right to the edge of annihilation. In fact, a lot of historians argue that the only reason the British army wasn't completely wiped out was because of treachery and betrayal within the Sikh high command itself.
And this just shows you how fast the end came. It was incredibly quick. After the First War, the Sikhs are narrowly defeated. They lose valuable territory and are forced to have a British official basically looking over their shoulder in their own court. Of course, that just bred resentment, which boiled over into one last rebellion. This time, the British crushed it completely. And that was it. In March of 1849, the Sikh Empire was officially dissolved and annexed. It was the last major kingdom in the subcontinent to fall to the British.
So, the story of the Sikh Empire, a rapid rise built on unity and pragmatism, and a swift fall caused by division, it leaves us with a critical question. What can this 50-year empire teach us about power, diversity, and division today? It's a stark reminder of just how fragile even the strongest state can be when the one person holding it all together is gone.
If you found this history of the Sikh Empire fascinating, be sure to explore our other videos on South Asian history and subscribe to the channel to keep learning with us. Thanks for watching.